Hi everybody, welcome to Flosstube number 49 and welcome back. I know I skipped a week last Sunday and that had not been my intentions, but we ended up having an open house, or our realtor did rather, and it was very successful. We had 2 offers this last Monday and we accepted one and were able to put our house under contract. So that was exciting. That's a quick, nearly painless selling process. So we were very excited about that. And hopefully now, as we begin the fun part of packing, and I say that kind of sarcastically, I don't know that packing is fun, but as we begin the packing process, at least it means we're that much closer to getting our new house started and moving out into the country. So we're excited about that part. I'm not sure how excited we'll be during the week as we're making boxes and trying to find a spot for everything, but we're just gonna chalk it up to it's an adventure. And I don't know about you guys, but I already have 1 box packed, and do you want to guess what it is? It's my stitching that I'm gonna need while we're in the camper. I was like, I can't take all my stitching and put in the camper. There's just not room. But I took 1 box and I picked out the projects I want to chart, the samplers for market that I need to stitch models for, and then a couple of fun projects that I want to stitch just for myself. So that box is packed. That's priorities. I have to make sure that I have something to stitch on while we're camped out in the camper. So that box is ready to go. This week, I want to talk to you about sampler motifs. We talked a little bit last Sunday, well, not last Sunday, but the last time I came to you on video, about Scottish samplers and how there are certain motifs that you can recognize as being pretty common in Scottish samplers. For instance, the peacock and urns with certain berries in them, or a certain type of tree, a large manor home. Those are all pretty typical motifs that you might find in a Scottish sampler. Well, today we're going to talk about some other motifs, and I happen to have an Italian sampler that I found in Andy Griffith's hometown of Mayberry, which that's what it was modeled for, but the actual town's name is Mount Airy, North Carolina. And if you are ever in that area, it's definitely worth a stop. I know we have a girls' week at the beach every year. My friend Mary Susan is so gracious to invite us to her beach house at Nags Head. And so one year, as Mom and I were headed home, we thought we would take a different route home just to see new scenery. And I was looking on the map and saw that we could actually visit Mount Airy. And my husband, that is probably one of his all-time favorite TV shows. He loves Andy Griffith, or what is it, the one with Matt Dillon, Gunsmoke. Those are his 2 probably favorites. And so I think I could hum the theme tune to either one of those by memory, because he has watched, I think, every single episode. So I told Mother, I said, oh, we need to go through here. I can take some pictures. He'll be jealous, but I'll take him back a little souvenir and some pictures and things, and then he'll be really, really happy. So we did. We made a pit stop, just stopped one night there, and it was the cutest little downtown area. It truly looked like it came straight out of the TV show Andy Griffith. Little soda shops that had some great antique shops in it. And in one particular antique shop, as I was looking, I saw this beautiful sampler. And of course I had to check it out, and it ended up coming home with me. I did get my husband a souvenir too, but I got one as well. I had to have that Italian sampler. So anyway, our trip to Mount Airy was just lots of fun, and the added bonus was having a sampler to come home with me. I also am going to talk just a little bit about Assisi embroidery because it's Italian. And I thought this would be a fun way to kind of incorporate it as I'm talking about motifs and showing you the Italian sampler that I got. So let me share the Italian sampler. She's a big girl, so it may be hard for you to see all of it at one time. at the top, as you can see, there's just lots and lots of alphabets, and I'm sorry, it's got glass that's not anti-glare. I haven't had it reframed yet, and I can see there's a glare there. But it looks like it's stitched just in black, probably a cotton. I haven't taken it out of the frame yet, so I can't be for certain. It gives the name of the stitcher and the date that it was stitched. And then at the bottom are all of these motifs. I'll try and hold it up just a little bit closer. I love that rooster. There's all kinds of motifs across the bottom. And that little dog there on the end, he's cute. So anyway, the bottom was just full. There was really no rhyme or reason to why they picked the motifs that they did. So it makes me really curious. I'll never know. That's just a mystery that who knows why they chose the particular motifs that they did. But when I take it out of the frame, I have a curious little bit of wondering what colors are on the bottom. I'm going to show you those up close again, and you can tell me in the comments what colors. I know there's some pink there, or salmon, but the rest are so light, it's really hard to tell. And as we know, it could be shocking when we take it out of the frame. There could really be some bright colors. That harp in the center is just gorgeous, I think. The best that I can tell from the front, the motifs look like they are done in cream, some black, maybe a gray, and it looks like nearly a mint green color. I'm not for sure. I'll know when I take it out. This one is not in the queue to chart just yet. I have several already lined up that I need to get charted and stitched for market next spring. But at some point, I do want to remove it from the frame and chart it. And I'll be anxious to see what these colors really are when I look at the back. But anyway, let's talk just a little bit about these different motifs. I'm going to set this down for just a second. Across that particular sampler, I just went down a list and tried to look at all the different motifs that that particular sampler included. It had lots of birds. Some were just a single bird, looked like they were sitting on a limb. There were two birds together in one little motif, but lots and lots of birds. And from what I found, a pair of birds represent eternal life. A single bird, maybe on a branch, signals the love of nature. Just a single bird could symbolize hope. So lots of positive things that birds can symbolize. So maybe that's why there's so many in that particular sampler. There was a castle, and a castle represents our heavenly home. Butterfly, there was a little butterfly there that represents pleasure, playfulness, possibly resurrection. You know, we know the butterfly changes from being in this little cocoon to this beautiful butterfly. There was and I can't tell yet if it's a boy or a girl, but there was a person at the bottom sitting with the dog, and that symbolizes protection. There was an urn with a flower in it. Flowers represent youth, life, good luck. There was a deer or a stag that represents faithfulness and charity. There was an anchor, which symbolizes safety and salvation. I'm going to turn my page here so I don't forget any of them. There was also, and I thought this was very interesting, I'll see if I can find it here in just a second and show you up close. There was what looked like a large fish hook, and it had a book in the center of it with some just like greenery around it. It said that would have represented faith. I'm not sure if that book was a Bible or if it was just a hook in a book. But I thought that was an interesting motif and one that I'd never seen before. Then there was a goat, and the goat represents lust or folly. It could also represent Satan. So The goat's really not a good thing, it didn't sound like to me. There was also a little candle with some greenery around it. That symbolizes, I don't know why I keep trying to say symbolizes devotion, watchfulness, and prayer. There was just a dog by himself. That represents loyalty, protection, knowledge. And I have to stop for just a second and tell you something that my daughter-in-law sent me this week. We were talking about dogs and cats, and she's like, I'm really more of a dog person. And I probably am too. We have dogs and cats. I love all animals. If I see a turtle in the middle of the road, I will not run over that turtle. And if I can safely pull over and get the turtle out of the road, I would do that. I love all animals, but I probably relate a little better to the dogs than I do the cats. Well, she sent me this video clip, and this police officer was talking about how if they find, and this is kind of morbid, so I'm sorry, but if they find someone that has been deceased, the cat will not be around that person. They might even nibble a little bit, but a dog, they said, will stay by that person's side until someone comes for help. Usually, they've seen that many, many times, that their dog is very loyal and devoted to its person. And so I thought that was very interesting. And now my youngest son, he is a cat lover. He loves cats. He doesn't want anything to do with dogs. So we all have those that we like and maybe bond to a little more than others. But I just got tickled because she had said that to me and said, this is why I'm a dog person. My dog will stay with me. Rooster represents charity, vigilance, or pride. And I thought about a little saying growing up, if someone thought they were really something, oh, I'm really, the person to see, they would often make the comment, well, they're kind of cocky, they think they're really something. And so I guess that's legit. Roosters are, it said here, represent pride. So they must think they're really something too. A harp, and in the center of the motifs at the bottom was a large harp with a sword through it, and that represents purity, harmony. So kind of a neat thing to have a symbol for. Let me see if I can pull that one up, and I'm sorry because it's so faded, but I'll try and have my finger here by it. This motif right here is the hook with the book in the middle. So I'm just guessing, my head was behind here. I really couldn't see. I hope you were able to get a glimpse of it maybe. But that is a motif that I really have never seen before. I've seen lots of anchors, lots and lots of birds. I've seen several dogs. This must be the year for the dog because it seems like this year I've purchased several samplers that have dogs on them. I also have a couple samplers with roosters. So I'm kind of following a theme, I think, for this year. I just thought it was interesting. And another article that I read had said, we can find out the meanings behind these motifs. And years and years and years ago, they might have stitched these on purpose, like they wanted whatever it was they were stitching or working on to represent a feeling at the time, or maybe a situation that was going on. And so they used motifs that would have represented that. But then they said later on, as young schoolgirls started stitching, they didn't necessarily stitch the motifs because of the meaning. They might have just said, oh, look, this is a cool person with a dog. Let me put this on my sampler. Or I really like music, so I'm going to stitch this harp. So it may have just been they thought the motif looked really cool, not necessarily because of the symbolism behind it. And I think that's kind of how we are today, isn't it? We can look at a sampler, and if we like the way it looks, that's more the reason that we're choosing to stitch it than what all the symbols mean in that particular sampler. So I think we're right there with those young schoolgirls today. The next thing that I want to show you is a book that I purchased, and I checked Amazon before I did my video because I wanted to make sure there were still some available. And there's different sites. I purchased this used, and I'm not sure that they have any new ones anywhere to be found, but it was in great condition, and it's a really neat book. If you enjoy the history behind the sampler motifs, this might be a book you may want to go on and find and get one for yourself. The front of it, so you'll kind of know what you're looking for, it's called Sampler Motifs and Symbolism, and it's written by Patricia Andrew and Lesley Rudnicki. I've just butchered that last name. But anyway, I'll put the information down below. So if you think, yes, I'd like to know a little bit more about sampler motifs, or I have a sampler that I'd like to understand what the motifs mean in this particular sampler, this would be an excellent resource for you. My tongue is really tied today, so you guys just bear with me. On the back of it, it shows a couple of other samplers, and this particular book also has the charts for these samplers inside. So you'll get some free patterns with the purchase of this book as well. I'll show you just a little sample of what the inside is like. Okay, for instance, very quickly, the letter R, it just goes through the whole alphabet. And so like it tells you motifs that begin with the letter R, what they stand for. So for instance, the first one, it shows you a little rabbit motif. And it says rabbit, gentleness. Also see hare. A dog chasing a rabbit is the good soul fleeing the evil. A white rabbit represents purity. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, it will not show examples of every single possible motif, but it does show a lot. There's several on every page. So it's definitely a book that I'm glad I've got because it's a great reference tool. So Sampler Motifs and Symbolism, if you want to learn more or you have a sampler you want to kind of research and investigate, this would be a good resource for you. And like I said, I'll put all the information down below. Now the next, where did I put it? I'll be right back. I set it over here on my sewing table, so I'll be right back. Not gone too long, had an intermission, so hopefully you were able to get a swig of coffee or tea or whatever you're drinking and take a little break. I have this little pillow, and this is an example of Assisi embroidery. I actually picked this up. I went with a group of friends to Italy to a primitive hair retreat that was over there about 7 years ago, I guess. And we actually visited the town of Assisi, probably one of my favorite towns in Italy. It's just beautiful. It sets up on this hill. That's where Father Francis was from. There's just so much to see in that beautiful little town. But they're known for this particular type of embroidery. And one thing that I thought was very neat, it's not just like our counted cross stitch. Originally, when Assisi embroidery first began, it was back in the medieval times, they would take a piece of linen and simply draw a design on the linen by hand. And then they would fill it in. Well, one thing, if you notice, I'll hold it up a little bit closer, this little border here is regular cross stitch. But all of the other designs are more of a running stitch or a back stitch. And so that's very different. They're not filling in like we will fill a design in typically when we stitch a motif. But in Assisi embroidery, they are only doing the outline and letting the linen shine through the middle part of the motif. And so that's a little different. Typically, this one just has some little, it looks like flowers, but a lot of the designs that were used were kind of the gargoyles or medieval looking beast. They did have flowers, but lots of birds and animals and things that would have looked very much like they came from medieval times. They typically would have very intricate borders. This one doesn't. It has the flowers around the outside. It has a very simple straight cross stitch double border, and then the flowers again on the inside. So this one does not have that very intricate border, but a lot of them do. Some of the colors they would have used would have been reds, blues, greens, golds. Those would have been the more common colors to stitch. This one happens to be blue. I have a lot of blue in my house. And then sometimes the outlines, they would have used a black or brown thread. But these were stitched mainly back in the day for religious purposes. So the young girls would have made probably like altar cloths or things that would have hung in the place of worship. And now, of course, it's stitched, probably some still for religious reasons, but also just for our enjoyment. This has a little sachet inside of it, and so it's just a little pillow that you could put in a drawer and make everything smell really good. I was trying to think if there was anything else. At the beginning, as I said, they just drew it on by hand. There really was no pattern, but now they do chart it more like what we use for our counting cross stitch. It's not a freehand design like it used to be. And I will include, there is a link that shows you a sample of some patterns that would be considered Assisi embroidery, and I'll put that link down below if you're interested and want to look at it and try your hand at it as well. I'll put that link down below. Also, Nicola from Hands Across the Sea Samplers has an excellent website that I have visited many times for information on sampler motifs. And I will put a link to that website down below as well. Of course, she's very knowledgeable about just anything to do with samplers, and so sweet to share what she knows. And so if you're enjoying learning about motifs, you might want to go check that website out as well. I'd like to announce the winner now from last week. I gave away one of my Scottish reproduction sampler charts, and it was the Jessie Munro chart, and I'd said I love that one because you know, the little girl said, I sewed this, and I could just hear a little 11-year-old so proud of her work saying that. So that's the chart that I gave away, and the winner is at Bragg, BRAGG 1. So if you're watching, be sure to send me an email. All that information is below as well, and give me your mailing address and I'll get that chart sent out to you. This week I'm trying to think about what to give away, and so I thought, oh, another chart. Those are, I can mail those, they're flat, they're easy to send. And with Assisi embroidery, it's more of an outline. And so with this particular chart, it has a 4-sided stitch for part of the alphabet, and that made me think of the Assisi embroidery. Plus, next week, I'm going to talk about a new sampler I received that is a Richardson sampler. I posted a picture of it on my Facebook and Instagram pages, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit and show you my thoughts of what I'm going to do with it. So, this will be the giveaway for this next week. It's Christiana Frances Richardson, and this was a fun one to do. I mounted it on a wooden tavern board, which is a little different way to finish a sampler. But you know, we don't have to frame all of them. We can do things like this, mount them in a little board, find something from the antique shop to put them in, and just make it kind of a fun finish. So anyway, that's the prize giveaway for this week. What I'd like to hear from you is just comment. Let me know what your favorite motif. Maybe if you're a big sampler stitcher, is there a particular motif that you enjoy stitching more than others? I don't know. You know, I've thought about that. I thought I'm going to ask everybody that question because, of course, I'm curious. But I thought, what would my answer be? And I'm not really sure. I think at different times, I like different motifs. I always like flowers in a sampler. I thought the chicken was really funny in this one. And always, I love animals, so the dog, of course, is a fun little motif to put. So I'm not sure what my favorite one would be, though. I'm gonna have to think about that. I'll let you know next week if I've decided. But anyway, I hope all of you have an absolutely wonderful week this week. Think about me. We're going to be packing, making boxes, and all kinds of stuff. I'll keep you updated on the house progress as we go along this journey. And but do take a little time to stitch. No matter how busy your week is, I hope you always have a little time to put your needle and thread to use and kind of unwind. I know that's how I unwind at the end of the day. I love to sit and just stitch, even if it's one row. I feel like it helps me to relax, and I plan on doing that this week. No matter how busy I get packing, there's going to be a little bit of stitching time at the end of the day for me. So I appreciate all of you that are watching and joining in. I love to read your comments, and so thank you for commenting. If you have not subscribed, I'd love to have you on as a subscriber. Just subscribe, hit the bell button so you'll know when I upload another video. And I hope to see you again next Sunday. And we'll talk about Richardson samplers then. So take care, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.